Good morning everyone. In today's video, we are going to discuss about market supply. Supply means a quantity of a commodity where the seller or a producer willing and able to sell in a market at a different prices in a different period of time. It is called a supply, and here market supply means the total amount of goods the producer is willing to sell in a different prices over a given period of time is called as a market supply. So market supply, we can say it is the summation of the individual supply. When we add up individual, for example firm 1, firm 2, firm 3, these firm 1 is an firm 2 is an individual supply. So when we add up all that, when we add, we call it as a summation. So the summation of the individual supply, when we put it in a specific market, we call it as a market supply. So with the help of a schedule and diagram, today we are going to discuss about the market supply. So the market supply, here the schedule is given. Under this schedule, here we cannot take all the sellers and all the producers. So here the price is given in the first column, and the second column which indicates, for example, this is firm 1 and this is firm 2. Here the name is given Ben and Jerry. These are different producers. Now the different prices are given here. The price is 0, 50, 1, 150, 2, 250, 3. These are the different prices which is given for the commodity. And for example, here Ben, how much is going to supply? When the price was 0, the Ben is going to supply 0 and Jerry is going to supply 0. When the price is 50, Ben is going to supply 0, that means he is not going to supply anything, even Jerry is not going to supply. When the price is 1 rupee, here the Ben is going to supply 1 and Jerry is going to supply none. When the price is 150, Ben is going to supply 2 and Jerry is going to supply 2. So at different prices, firm 1 and firm 2 is going to supply different quantities of goods. In this, what we can understand in the schedule means, here already I taught you about the law of supply. The law of supply simply states that when the price is less, supply also will be less. You can observe when the price was 0, 50, 1, there was no supply. And when the price is more, the supply also will be increasing. See here 254 and here it is 6. When the price is 3, Ben is supplying 5 and Jerry is supplying 8. That means when the price was less, the supply also was less. When the price was more, the supply also was more. This is what the schedule indicates. And now you can observe here the different prices given, and this is firm 1's supply, this is firm 2 supply. When we add up this both firm 1 and 2, here what is the sum up we get? This is called as a market supply. Here 0 plus 0, 0, 0 plus 0, again 0, 1 plus 0, 1, 2 plus 2, 4, 3 plus 4, 7, 4 plus 6, 10, 5 plus 8, 13. So you have to add simply, that is firm 1 and firm 2, you will get market supply. This is how to calculate the market supply. The same thing we are going to explain with the help of a diagram here. Okay, here the diagram, this is Ben's supply, that means firm 1 supply. This is Jerry's supply, that means firms 2. When we are adding up Ben and Jerry, we will get the market supply. The curve just simply indicating here, that is the supply of Ben, supply of Jerry, adding up both, we are getting the market supply curve. So according to the variable, what is the numbers given here? If you draw in the form of a diagram, so here OY axis indicating the price, OX axis indicating the quantity supplied. According to the variable, if you keep the numbers here, what is the curve you are getting? That is the supply curve. This is a individual supply curve. Ben's supply is a individual supply curve. Jerry's supply curve is a individual supply curve. This is firm 1 and firm 2. So when you add up firm 1 and firm 2, that is Ben and Jerry, when you add up, you will get the market supply curve. So adding up two individual supply curve is called as a horizontal summation, or horizontal summing up, we will get the market supply. What does this supply curve shows? The market supply curve shows that output levels, that means here the OX axis, the quantity supplied is measured. That means it is showing the output levels that firms in the market produce in a aggregate corresponding to different values of the market price. Here the prices are indicated, here the output, how much supplied is indicated. So aggregate means what is the price and how much the quantity supplied is supplied in the market by Ben and Jerry. So this is the market supply curve simply shows us. Okay, now we will move on towards the price elasticity of supply. So what does the price elasticity of supply indicates? So already we discussed about the elasticity concept in the demand. Elasticity means where responsiveness showed towards the supply. How we discussed in the demand concept, in the same way here also we have a elasticity of supply. In that, the one of the important concept is price elasticity of supply. How much the price changes, what is the changes takes place in the supply, what proportion. Actually in the before law of supply, it simply states that when the price is less, supply is less. But how much, that was not indicated. What proportion or what percentage have been changed, it is not indicated. So in order to explain what is the percentage, what is the proportion changing in the price, and how much the supply is going to decrease, or what is the price increases, how much the supply is going to increase, to show that percentage and the proportion, here we are using the price elasticity of supply. Now we will see what is price elasticity of supply. So it is defined as the ratio of proportionate change in the supply. The supply is going to change because the change in the price, because the price is changing, because price is an independent variable. So when the price changes 10 rupees, earlier the price was, suppose now it is increased to 15 rupees. If the price increased from 10 to 15, how much the supply is going to increase? Okay, earlier there was 20 commodities was sold for 10 rupees. Now 25 the producer is going to supply in the market. How much the percentage changed here? 25. And what is the price changed here? 5. So here the 5 is the increase. To show this proportion, we are using the concept price elasticity of supply. Okay. So the formula for this is price elasticity of supply equals proportionate change in supply divided by proportionate change in price. So it can be simply written as delta. This is delta. Delta means we call it as changes. So what is changed? Q indicates the quantity, P indicates the price. How much the change in price divided by changes in price and quantity into P by Q. This is the formula to calculate the price elasticity of supply. You don't have any problems here to solve, so no need to worry here. The next, in the price elasticity of supply, we have a concept called classification of price elasticity of supply. So in the classification, again we have a 5 classification, unlike a demand concept. Here the first one is perfectly elastic supply, second perfectly inelastic supply, third relatively elastic supply, fourth relatively inelastic supply, and the fifth one is unit or unitary elastic supply. So this will be discussed one by one now. First one is perfectly elastic supply. So perfectly elastic supply means here the degree of elasticity will be infinite. Here the degree of elasticity will be infinite. So infinite means we use the symbol here infinite. Infinite means there is no end. Okay. So perfectly elastic supply, that means price elasticity of supply equals infinite. So why we are calling here as a infinite means a small change in price, a small OY axis indicating the price, always remember that, and OX axis indicating the quantity supplied. Okay. So a small change in price brings an infinite change in the quantity of supply. So in this case the supply curve takes the horizontal line towards the OX axis. So here this is the supply line. So which is showing a small change in a price leads to infinite changes in a supply. So the supply curve taking a shape of horizontal line. So here the price elasticity of supply is called as infinite, right? The second one is perfectly inelastic supply. Here the degree of elasticity will be PES equals 0. Why we call it as 0? Again OY axis indicating the price, OX axis indicating the quantity supply. Okay, here what is the shape of the curve? The shape of the curve is vertical. So in this case a change in price does not affect the quantity of supply. See here the price will be changed. Okay, P1, P2, P3, P4. So whether the price is decreasing or prices are increasing, whatever changes in the price, here the supply doesn't change, the supply remaining constant. There is no changes in the quantity supplied. So therefore it is called as there is no change in supply. So therefore we call it as a PES is equals to 0. In this case a change in price does not affect. So whatever the change in price does not affect the quantity of supply. The quantity of supply is constant. Okay. So here that means irrespective of change in price, supply remains unchanged. So the supply curve takes the shape of vertical line. It is called as a perfectly inelastic supply. Next one is relatively elastic supply. Here the degree of elasticity is greater than 1. That means PES is greater than 1. Why we call it as greater than 1? In this case a small change in price. See here. Here a small change in price brings a greater change in quantity supply. A small change only will be happened in a price. Okay, this is the price changes. But see how much the quantity supply have been increased. So due to this we call it as here the price elasticity of supply will be greater than 1. Okay, so we call this as a relatively elastic supply. So the next one is relatively inelastic supply. So relatively inelastic supply means here the degree of elasticity is less than 1. PES is less than 1. Why we call it as less than 1 here? Then the elasticity of supply is said to be relatively inelastic. In this case, a change in price brings a proportionately small change in the quantity of supply. See here, the price will be increased more. Okay, observe here the distance. Here it is indicating price, here the quantity supplied. See the greater change in price, but how much the supply have been increased? Supply is less. So we call it as a price elasticity is lesser than 1. Okay, the greater change in price leads to smaller changes in supply. Here the smaller changes in price leads to greater changes in the supply. So we call this as a relatively elastic supply, and here smaller changes in a supply we call it as a relatively inelastic supply. The last one is unitary elastic supply. So under the unitary elastic supply, here the degree of elasticity will be PES equals 1. That means whatever the changes in price leads to same changes in supply. For example, 10% changes in price leads to 10% changes in a quantity supplied. So in this case, a change in price brings a proportionate or equal change in the quantity supply. So this is called as a unitary elastic supply. Thank you for watching. Any doubts, please ask and clarify from me.